All Cooper CPAs, located in the heart of East Nashville, offer a wide variety of tax services for individuals and businesses. Contact them at 615-257-0646 and visit their website, allcooper.com, for a full list of services.
From the family grocery hauler to fire-breathing racing engines, the one name you need to know is USA Motor and Machine, located at 51 Cleveland Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee. Give them a call at 615-726-3725 or at usamotorandmachine.com.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Williams. And coming up next on Political Soup with Crom Carmichael and Chip Forrester, we're going to talk about the national debt, the fiscal cliff. Did we really avoid it? Al Gore is a sellout, but the Al Jazerra and the Boy Scouts have found a defender they probably didn't expect. All that and more coming up next on Political Soup.
Jeff Meeks and Chris Austin invite you to watch your favorite sports event at the Batter's Box at 43 Hermitage Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee. The Batter's Box offers shuttle service to all Titans home games. It's a great place for friends to gather for the game and after the game. So check out the Batter's Box Bar and Grill, and thanks again for sponsoring the show. Bandwidth for today's show is brought to you by SoftLayer.com. We love SoftLayer here at Talkopolis. They are the greatest hosting company ever. They make everything easy. Check out their website at SoftLayer.com. Thanks again for sponsoring the show.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Political Soup. I'm Joe Williams, along with Crom Carmichael and the returning Chip Forrester.
Thank you.
Do we pick on him now for being able to take that great trip over the holidays, or do we let him slide?
Well,
give me a break, guys.
Okay.
I'm nice and
Okay.
relaxed. Just got my energy back, and so let's have some fun.
Man walks in talking about being on the beach, and then you talk about having been to South Beach. So I'm sitting here stuck in the middle having to work.
yes, well, that's
Someone's
the way it
gotta earn a
goes.
living.
That's right.
Shade boy, I got news for you, partner. Some things ain't happening. Some things do happen, gentlemen. We got a deal anyway on the fiscal cliff. I mean, we got a package. You know, my taxes only went up, what, 5.8% instead of 30-something%.
Right.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, the best description of the resolution is it was bad but could have been worse.
And we didn't go over the cliff.
And that's what I'm saying. It could have been worse. If we had gone over the cliff, that would have been worse. But the resolution, how they ended up with, is bad.
Now, you say we didn't go over the cliff. Is it a matter that we didn't go over the cliff, or we just didn't go far enough that we've hit bottom yet? We slowed the fall down.
Well, that's certainly what people are talking about. We just kicked this can down the road a little bit. We've still got more to deal with. But the important thing is that we did come up with a solution, at least temporary. Maybe it's a Band-Aid. But we didn't go over the cliff. I think it would have had negative repercussions on the economy if we had. Crom, what do you think?
Well, I think that it would have been, the repercussions would have been worse if we'd gone over the cliff, but what was resolved is not going to be good for the economy. It's just going to be more, I think, more of the same. We're going to have very, very slow growth. We may even have some negative months, because when you take that much money out of the private sector, and especially when you take that much money out of the sector that is in the small business area, you've got the most rapidly growing companies are now going to be paying a lot more in taxes than they were, which means they have less resources to expand their business and create new jobs because they just simply don't have the money to do it. Then you're going to have Obamacare that begins to kick in next year, and you already see how companies are trying to figure out exactly what they're going to do to take care of that. And then, frankly, you've still got this huge deficit that is looming over everything.
Well, that's what they're going to wrangle with. I mean, that's the really tough piece of business over the next 60 days. And actually, the debt ceiling, I think we reach it February 15th. So, you know, a month and a half from now.
And I guess, at least for most of us in the general public, the big battle year before last that we almost shut down the government over the limit is kind of what really kicked everybody into going, okay, exactly what's going on. Guys, we're right back there again.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think, and I would argue that not everybody is, I mean, we're not anywhere near close to being on the same page.
Right.
In this last deal, taxes went up dramatically. And in fact, what's interesting is that the taxes went up the most on the middle class, because the reinstatement of the 2% Social Security tax is going to hit people making $50,000, $1,000. And if they're a two-income family and they're making $100,000, it's going to hit them for $2,000. It will raise more tax revenue than the rest of the tax rate increase by far, maybe even 2 or 3 times as much, because people who are well, here's what's interesting. If you live in California and you are self-employed, and if you are wealthy and you already have $1 million of unearned income, you're now in the 71% tax bracket in California. I think a lot of those people will decide to leave California
we
to
talked
avoid
about that last time.
to avoid
Come
the
to
13,
Tennessee,
and I
yeah.
think they'll come to Tennessee. I think we'll get a lot of them.
Is there a way to simplify just what kind of shape we're in?
Well, let's take a look. We've got a pretty good show.
All right, let's take a look. The first slide, 2 slides for you today. This is what we call simplified, but basically the tax revenues, 100,000 million, billion, trillion, 2.17 trillion, but the budget's 3.82
trillion. Isn't that amazing? $1 trillion you can't get your mind around.
Right.
No, you really can't.
No,
I mean,
it's hard to count all those zeros.
Yeah,
That's right. You look at the debt, you look at the national debt, you look at the budget cuts.
Look at this. Now, how are we going to make this simpler to understand? Well, it's easy. You start taking away some zeros.
Yep.
It's the same numbers, just divided equally. A family income of $21,700, but you're spending $38,200. I got to be honest, fellas, I don't know anybody who can do that.
Right, and by the way, this is not the average family. Average family income is higher than this, but
Right.
this is if the federal government, taking away zeros, if the federal government were a family,
That's what it would look like.
that's what it would look like. And so pop that back up if you would. It's because it's fascinating. It's spending $38,000. You've got $16,000 of new money put on the credit card in 1 year. Adding up now, the balance on your credit card is $142,000. And how much did they cut? $38.50. This is not a solution.
I agree.
Yep.
No, it's the object of the show. You disagree. But that's a good thing. I mean, it is what it is.
Well, and the other thing too is it's important. We're mixing a couple sort of metaphors here of apples and oranges. I mean, the debt ceiling is one issue that we're going to face that Republicans and some of the sort of ideologically right-wing Republicans have tied to this whole debate. And really, I mean, George Bush raised the debt ceiling 7 times. Ronald Reagan raised it 18 times. It was never an issue. And what's disturbing about that discussion, which we saw in 2011, is that the sort of the value of the American commitment to fidelity and honor about our debt goes out the window with these right-wing ideological Republicans who are holding this hostage in the debt debate. We need to separate those, and we need to have a discussion about the debt. That's certainly true. The president's willing to do that, but we don't need to tie it to the debt ceiling issue that's going to come up in February.
Well, I would disagree with Chip on that because the president says he's serious about spending cuts until he's asked to name one. And you saw it, 38.
He put Social Security, he put Medicare, he's offered those, and it's Congress's responsibility, constitutional responsibility to come up with a budget, not the president. You said that last time. Yeah. It's their job, and then the president assigns the authorization.
So here's what I think is going to happen over the next 90 days. You have 2 different issues. Well, you have 3 things. You have the debt ceiling.
Right.
You have the sequestration that comes up within 60 days, and that's $1 trillion spread out over 10 years. And then you have the budget. Now, the House, since the Republicans took over the House, has passed a budget every year. The Senate has not passed a budget. The Democrats control the Senate. And so, Chip, I agree with you. It is time for the Democrats in the Senate to step up and do their job and pass a budget. John Boehner has said within the next 90 days, the House will pass a budget. And then he says if the Senate won't pass a budget, the burden is on them because the president cannot sign a budget that the Senate doesn't pass.
I understand, but the budget that the House of Representatives puts up kept the taxes for the 1% richest people in our country at the same amount. And the president said he wasn't going to sign something like that. So they want the Republicans who control the House want their cake and eat it too. They're not willing to meet the president halfway and make some of the spending cuts as well as the tax cuts. The other thing too that we need to look at in this whole process is our tax code. It's a mess. The tax breaks for corporations that pay nothing, that all needs to be on the table in this discussion. Republicans are unwilling to do that.
And I believe that over the next 90 days,
Republicans
will pass a budget that includes entitlement reform. It may or may not include tax reform. I hope it does. And it will attack some of these cronyism issues.
Well,
now we'll see what the Senate does, because it is the Senate for 4 years that has refused to even pass a budget. And so we have no idea. No U.S. senator in 4 years has had to vote up or down on a budget in the Senate. And Boehner has said the House will pass a budget, And if the Senate won't pass a budget, then it's up to the president to lead his own party in the Senate to pass something, so that at least the American people know what the U.S. senators stand for.
Good point.
And the fourth issue here, and I'm going to throw this in as the common man from the street, because this is just, that's where I sit. I mean, that's what I am. I'm a poor guy. But, you know,
Well, not that Crom and I are all that rich.
well, I understand.
Unless I don't know something about Crom.
I'm somewhere in the, you know, the 99%, you know, at the bottom of that list. But two things, and you mentioned tax reform. It is time. We need to just throw out what we've got and start all over. I mean, if you've got to have a book like this to figure out who gets what break and where it goes, that's a whole nother, you know, that's at that point it has become unwieldy, unenforceable, and everything that we do now continues to add regulations to that, some of which are nothing more than the same regulation that's been passed 4 times under a different name that's already there.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you have hedge fund managers who are paying less in taxes than the secretaries who work for them, that's a problem. And Warren Buffett said that. I mean, Warren Buffett said, I should be paying more taxes than my secretary, and he's not.
Well, Warren Buffett is a political opportunist, and so he's
one of the most successful businessmen in our country.
And he is a political opportunist.
Well, he's not running for anything.
Well, he's a political opportunist. He says what he says because he doesn't want liberals to attack him as a wealthy guy. So he says, I ought to pay more taxes. Chip, it's real simple. If Warren Buffett wants to pay more taxes, all he has to do is write a check.
Well,
they'll take it. Now, wait a minute, Chip. All he has to do is write a check. But here's what he says. He says, I'll be willing to pay more taxes if people making $250,000 pay more taxes. Well, let me tell you something. There's a lot of difference between somebody making $250,000 running a small business and somebody worth $50 billion. They're just not even close to the same.
We're splitting hairs here.
No. That's exactly what Warren Buffett says. The guy making $250,000 is just like me. I'm sorry. A guy with $50 billion is not like that. It's different. So he needs to stroke a check for about $20 billion. And you know what? He won't even miss it. He'll still have 30, but he won't do that. And by the way, this tax code didn't change a thing.
No, it didn't.
No, it didn't. Well, this is what Obama wanted. What passed the Senate, let's remember, this passed the Senate.
This is not what the president wanted. This is what they thought they could get to avoid the fiscal cliff at the last minute. The president had put tax reform on the table all along. He put Medicare, Social Security on the table for discussion. It was just a matter of, it was minutes before we were going over that cliff.
All right, ding, we ring the bell. He gets the last word, first segment. Good job, Chip.
Thanks, Joe.
He'd been watching everybody going, hey, we're running out of time on this segment. He knew when to get in there. That's cold, I'm kidding.
Oh, having fun.
Coming up in the second segment, we're going to continue this discussion, but in a little bit of a different light. I wonder what that means. You'll just have to stay tuned to find out. Stay with us here on Political Soup.